Hey everybody. So we're dealing with the angel class, and usually we jump right into a practice, but let's also do a little Q&A, which we don't do very often in the angel class, or in angel study group, I should say. So again, let's try to keep it more angel oriented, but angels and some of the other mechanics, excuse me, also overlap. And so let's go ahead and fire away.
And you can unmute yourself, or you can type in the chat. If you have a private question, you can type it to Apothecary Geek. Go ahead, Barbara.
Hey there.
Hey.
I had an incredibly beautiful experience last week when you invoked Kamael, and I just wondered if there was anything you cared to say about that.
About your experience, or about the angel, or?
Well, about the angel, or it wasn't the one I was working with, but it was such a lovely experience.
Kamiel's nice. You know, Kamiel is associated with, in the Tree of Life, is associated with the solar plexus. And so a lot of times when, you know, you would think about it just in a rational way, you would think about it being like kind of, you know, like, or even like the oils that are like hot and stimulating, you know, like thyme or oregano or cinnamon. But you know, if you look at the aspect of Kamiel, you know, it's basically
It was so not that.
yeah, it's pure energy with consciousness, and the archangels are being present to help us cultivate the virtue of the chakra and the aspect of God associated with that chakra, or that energy center, or Sephiroth, however you want to call it. And so the negative spirit associated, or the negative spirits, I should say, associated with the solar plexus are like they're associated with wrath, right? Wrath. And so if you think about Kamiel bringing in the divine presence, it is literally calming down the propensity or the tendency to be wrathful. And if you step away from the word wrathful, it is also stepping away from being, like, you could kind of say in a way, like reactionary. Like, you know, you're starting to be able to be committed to something bigger than yourself, rather than being consumed by the self. And so the solar plexus is very interesting, you know, because you know, in Kabbalistic teachings, you would see the Star of David, and a lot of times the Star of David is associated with the heart, or they'll do the Star of David up above the head. And the Star of David up above the head is more about activating the incarnated soul, or the aspect of the soul where it allows downpouring of divine energy into the system. But the real true Star of David is actually the solar plexus, and it's because the energy centers associated with the higher centers are the heart and above, and the lower centers is the navel down. And the solar plexus is considered both. It's considered a higher chakra and a lower chakra. And so it is really kind of the passing, you know, the like gateway, or warehouse, clearinghouse, whatever you want to call it, of where the energies are kind of moving up and down the central channel. And so if the lower centers are clean enough, the energy can move up and become more higher emotions or your higher faculties. And when the divine energy is coming down, if the solar plexus is regulated enough and clean enough and not agitated, then the energy can go further down into the lower centers and eventually the basic. And so what happens sometimes when the solar plexus isn't completely clean is nobody's is ever completely clean. I misspoke there. Clean enough, let's say. Right? The divine energy comes down and it kind of acts as like a fertilizer of sort. And so whatever's in the solar plexus will get fertilized, it gets amplified. And so sometimes people would have very strong spiritual experiences, a lot of divine energy coming down, and then have a little bit of a meltdown, like get a little bit upset, get a little bit angry, get into a fight with somebody. Part of it is, and sometimes it's not you, and it could be people you're connected to. Like you're fine, but you also have cords to the people around you, and you walk in and then people blow up at you. It's still that same component. And so on an even deeper level, Kamio helps to calm down like your solar plexus, but it also helps to calm down the energy flowing through the cords between you and other people, so that you have a deep spiritual experience and you walk into a room of people who you're connected to but might not have a spiritual practice. There's a less of a tendency to have a reaction with the people around you. And so I would say when you work with each of the archangels, there's a kind of peace that comes with it. But like when you go through and you work with each one, it's almost like each one is a different kind of peace or a kind of stillness, or and Kamio is definitely calming and soothing to the lower emotions and helps one to, here's a way of saying it helps you to move from an eye for an eye to loving kindness. It's not the angel of loving kindness, but it's like the ambassador to get you to loving kindness. Like he makes a really great introduction to Zadkiel. Really great introduction. Zadkiel would be more associated with loving kindness.
Right. I like. Does that transfer to the others you have those cords with, or is it really about the self?
When you start working with angels, it impacts the people around you.
Okay.
Yeah, people you're connected with, the people around you. Even if it's like you go out into the environment and you don't know the people there, it will start to impact people kind of in your vicinity. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kamiel is a really nice angel to work with.
Yeah, it was just unexpectedly so lovely.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. Some of the oils that are in the Kamiel, when I set out to make Kamiel, the formula that really started playing out and coming to like in the form was not what I thought it was going to be. Not even close. Like not even like in the ballpark. I mean, like I started doing it, I was like, this is not what I expected. And I just kind of went with it. And I kind of, in a way, I didn't quite completely understand it at first. This is many, many years ago. And looking at the plants that are in it, some of them are some of the plants that were tied to an old chemical liniment. It was actually considered the very first liniment that was ever made. And it was to calm and soothe the person and help facilitate like a healing process, but non-specific. And if you think about everything that we were just talking about with the lower emotions and like psychosomatic issues and everything, that's kind of what it was addressing. Like it wasn't like full spectrum, but it was a big piece of it. And some of those same plants are in the blend for Cameo. And I didn't realize it at the time until after I started getting done with the ceremony to do it. And then I was like, boy, as time went by, I was like, makes a lot of sense. At the time, it doesn't always make sense to me, so I have to sit with that for a while. But after a while, it made a lot of sense.
I think the aspect that really struck me was a sense of my energy moving to join the energy that was coming in from the angel. And I hadn't really experienced it that way with this work before. And it was just, it took me by surprise a little bit.
Yeah, nice. Any time that you want to anytime you want to like intensify working with an angel, there's a couple of different things you can do. One is the materialization technique that we do in the materialization class. That is helpful. But another aspect is, regardless of what the angel is for or what center it's associated with, inhale the angel or invoke the angel with your awareness on your forehead for a period of time. Now, I say that with a disclaimer. It will make you expel. Like, so what I would do, like for you, like if you wanted to deepen your practice with Cameo, is inhale it several cycles with just your awareness on your forehead, nothing else, just your forehead. Even though it's of the solar plexus, just do your forehead. And then over a period of time, pull out your purba and do disintegration on the solar plexus. Yeah,
Great. Thank
that
you.
would be really substantial. Really
Okay.
substantial. Yeah. Different angels are going to make different areas like evolve, because really what you're dealing with when you're working with angels is you're not just embracing the evolutionary process, you're engaging it, you're accelerating it. And so there's always going to be an energy of displacement. There's going to be something being displaced somewhere. So the idea of using a purba to go through, or a disintegrator, or something, it helps move the energy quicker and doesn't allow it to linger in the body quite as much, and helps to integrate the energy of the angel to a much higher degree. Now, granted, there's other things that need to be done, but just putting your awareness on your forehead, especially if you've been doing some of the angel work, the other angel work allows for things just to come out much easier. But once you get to that point, doing the purification like that, the other way to do it would be with the poplar balsam spray or inhaling the poplar balsam. And sometimes, some of them, it's aloes. It's usually one of three. It's usually aloes or poplar or tuberose, depending on the angel and what that angel is associated with. But for
How would we know which oil that would be?
yeah, it's complicated. Like if you're not sure, you could just rotate through all three. But
That's plenty for now. Thank you.
yeah, I was trying to think of a way to explain it, because it's almost like you have to have this like you have to factor in like, okay, what if they're associated with an energy center? Where's that at? what planet are they associated with, and what, like you have to kind of factor in a bunch of pieces and then go from there. And so Poplar works really well for angels that are helping to shift the person's will. Tuberose helps with, let me make sure I'm doing this right. Hold on just a second. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. Oh, sorry about that. We're good. So tuberose would be things that are more about sensitivity or like about awareness or love aspects. Poplar would be more about will-oriented things. And you could say aloes would be more about creative destruction. Creative destruction, or things that have to do more with like oneness or the creative process. You're not sure, just rotate through all three of them.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
What is the difference of Archangel Kamiel blend and the premium version?
Intensity. Yeah, intensity. You know, like a lot of times we'll make the regular blend to be like cost effective, like if you want to do baths or you just want to practice. And then the premium, you know, we set like trying to be cost effective aside and just, you know, we kind of swing for the fences, you know, where we're not trying to keep it within certain parameters. We're just trying to produce the result. And you know, sometimes it's still not super expensive, and sometimes they're crazy expensive. You know, it depends on what plants get brought in during the ceremonies to bring in the formulas. And so the premium ones, they're usually more intense. And so if you're just like starting or in early stages, you don't necessarily need to go premium right off the bat. But like when you're doing deeper angel work, then I would say you start thinking about going premium.
I keep finding myself reaching for Raphael and Yael. Anything you'd say about this choice pattern?
Well, Raphael, you know, is considered healing, but not healing how we think about it as humans. It's more about being entangled in the form, like the loss of awareness of the soul, which happens to all of us coming into form. I mean, that's kind of what happens, is we don't really remember what happened before we were in this body. You know, we don't remember the awareness. And so it is let me think of it in this way. Raphael is tied to increasing the ability to let something in, to observe something, to truly, truly observe something. Where a lot of times, if you were to stand back and watch how we go through and we get through the day, you know, there's just certain levels or degrees of this is what I want, this is what I need, this is the comfort I'm trying to maintain. And then you kind of look at the situation, you go, how do I get that? Right? When really, when you're looking at it from higher mental cognitive function, there's a lot of just observing for anywhere from several seconds to several minutes to sometimes even weeks, months, even years, where you're just observing something and letting it in and then going, how do I adjust myself? Because the thing that you're adjusting is you're adjusting your lower nature. It's not you're adjusting your higher nature. You're going, I'm letting this in. I'm letting in my higher nature. I'm letting in my higher soul, or I'm letting in the creative processes or observing the laws of nature in the environment. And how do I adjust my lower nature to calibrate myself with my environment? And that is Raphael in a nutshell. It's healing in a way that helps to diminish going down the rabbit hole of I don't know, I think I'm making up a word here, but devolving or de-evolving, is that a word? Devolving? I don't know, I'm probably making it up. But it's the opposite of evolving, right? You would be increasing the connection to the lower nature, right? Increasing the drive of lower emotions, the drive of the mental faculties, the instinctive mental faculties. I keep saying instinctive mental faculties. They're not mental. They eventually affect the mind, but they're not. You're not processing them. So they're instinctual responses. And so when we really embrace this and not more of the intuitive mind, we have the tendency to go down the rabbit hole of being entangled. We go down the rabbit hole of engaging in stories or in justifications or starting to rebel against truth and the laws of nature, things of this nature. And so Yael Yael is in a way, Yael is helping to purify the basic and the will to survive. And the will to survive is tied to being at odds with nature and at odds with other people. And it's even tied a little bit to death drives. And so Yael is a very powerful angel to work with. Not really considered an archangel, but for being in the form, it's something that is helpful and aids in dealing with more of your primal aspects, your primal nature, your primal kind of chaotic part of what Jung called like the id, or the chaotic part, or the disorganized part of your physiology, because it's not the soul, it's the physiology, the lower nature. It's the consciousness associated with the lower nature. And so it's interesting that you're using both. They really work kind of hand in hand. They work really well. It's a great combination to be utilizing. If you wanted to augment that somewhat, Gabriel would be helpful, and then Sandoval. If you think about Gabriel or Gabriel, consider the messenger. It's the archangel with the horn, and so it's tied to communicating with the energies of the environment, the quality of energy that's communicating with the environment, and in a way, you could say, in a way, Gabriel is tied to harmonizing with the laws of nature. That's why sometimes Gabriel is associated with prosperity or materialization, and it's definitely why Gabriel is tied to of the four directions. It's tied to the north. So the north is tied to, after you've observed, you still don't have complete understanding or complete awareness. It's through applying yourself and through activity that you refine your awareness and your perception, and you enhance the things that are good or of truth, and you let go of the misperceptions or the conditioning. And without having the application or the effort, or you could almost say the struggle, there really is a difficult time in the ability to refine your perception or your awareness. And so you kind of it's hard to bring in the light without refinement through action. In the Buddhist tradition, there's different types of Buddhism. And the one that's associated with Padmasambhava, the being that brought Buddhism to Tibet, Padmasambhava is the masculine aspect. The feminine aspect would be same being, but Guru Rinpoche, or also known as Buddha Miling. And so this type of Buddhism is not tied to processing a lot of information and teachings. It's doing things with energy. And it's basically like, if you were to boil down what is the nature of the Nyingma, or also known as Nyingmapa, the tradition, it's spirituality through action, or spirituality through activity, not through sitting and meditating, but by having spiritual experiences and then applying yourself. It's the development of the will, especially the Padmasambhava aspect. And so Gabriel would augment that, and then Samafan would help with constantly being reminded that it's not about connecting to the form, It's not about the accumulation of facts or information. It's not associated with the self getting the needs met, but it's tied to embracing something bigger than yourself, bigger than your life. Basically, to be able to embrace the divine aspects or God or Buddha nature, whatever you would like to call it, or you can even boil it down even more in the ability to embrace or pursue that which is causeless, like the causeless light. The higher Buddha nature, Buddhic faculties. An easy way of saying it is just embracing something that is bigger than yourself or outside of yourself. So those combinations are actually quite potent.
What pattern should I use for this?
I would do the thing that I was just saying for Camille. Like I would actually embrace it by. I mean, you've been doing some of the angel work, yeah. So do go right to the forehead. Like each one of them, inhale it in the forehead, and then after you've done it for a while, take a salt bath. If you have a Purbao or a disintegrator, you could do that, but definitely take a salt bath. Probably with like a hyssop, chakra root cleanser. Give me a second here. Either with hyssop, chakra root cleanser, or spikenard. Yeah, in all this process, whoever this is, I don't see your faces when I'm answering this question, so use a lot of spikenard. Use a lot of spikenard on your feet when you're working with these angels.
Go ahead, Laura.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
I'm doing good.
My question actually goes along with what you just answered, but it started originally when you were talking about Raphael,
And I
because
love me some Raphael.
being
I've
entangled in
been-
the, I'm sorry.
I've been working Raphael myself quite a bit. Like I love me some Raphael.
Well, I can understand from the very small amount that I know. You were talking about, being entangled in the form and increases the ability to observe. Is this, if you're focusing on your forehead, would you do this for a period of time and then maybe do meditation?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah. Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
that
so-
just seems like it's leaning into it.
Yeah.
And would you do multiple, and I may have missed this, you may have said this, would you do multiple angels in one sitting or one at a time?
I would say case by case basis. Like it depends on the person and how much it impacts you. But I would say that you could work up to doing multiple angels at once. If you feel you can do it right off the bat, you can do it. But sometimes you'll even feel like you might start working one and it's like, oh, I can only work this one today, like, or this week or whatever. And then there'll be times where, I might do 10 or 12 angels on the forehead. And then there's times where it's just one, like in ones and tens. So
Perfect.
they're each going to make these like kind of shifts or changes in your body and your physiology, And so, you know, the Raphael helps with the observation, and then the Sandalphon helps with the embracing something outside of yourself or bigger than yourself. And so in the early days, we used to just, one of the early ways I was taught, we would have different like herbs or incenses that we would burn when we would work with the angel. And then we would like tone the name, but with our awareness on the forehead. And so you could do it with the oils. The thing that I like about the oils, because even when we were doing it with the toning, we were still using the incense, because the incense does somewhat what the oils are doing. They're allowing for there to be a different behavior. It shifts part of your brain. It shifts behavior, thinking, perceptions. And so the incense would help, but like by inhaling the oil that's specific to that angel, you know, it's helping to bring the energy of that angel through the blend. And so it's shifting your brain very specifically to that angel. And so if you want to work with something where you don't have the blend, you can invoke the name, but I would still like burn some sort of like incense or something along with it. You know, if you go back and you look at healing and ceremony over the last 5,000 to 8,000 years, almost all of it involved, like they used to call it like therapeutic smokes, but it's basically what we call incense now, you know, and not cheap incense, like you're dealing with like plants in the raw form, or they would make, you know, very fancy incense and burn it as you would go through and do it. And it helps allow the brain and the energy body to shift. And so it also has a purifying effect. So when something starts to come out, the incense kind of starts cleaning you up somewhat. You know, it's cleaning up the space and it's cleaning up you all at the same time. So the plants play a significant role in this process. And so in the Egyptian tradition, there was the being Nefertum, who started the greater mystery school, the mystery school associated with Horus. You know, the outer school was Isis, and then the inner school was of Horus. And so from the school of Horus, this great being gave the Kabbalistic teachings through one of his disciples to Abraham. And this being that started this great mystery school is the being or the deity, the spiritual elder associated with healing. And along with healing, it is the deity of aromatherapy, or using plants or scent to shift the consciousness of people. And so I always found that very, very interesting. You know, it's also the being associated with magic. And so with all of this together, the chief disciple of this being Nefertum, his chief disciple was the disciple associated with theurgy, which is the practice of working with angels, of alchemy, and theurgy and astrology. And so that being gave Kabbalistic teachings from his teacher, Abraham.
All right, I have two quick questions. One, do you have a favorite place to get a good quality incense?
We just started making up a whole bunch. I used to make it a whole bunch, and then I stopped, and then we started making it again.
So is it online?
Yeah, I think we posted it in the last couple of days, and we have a whole bunch more that we're making that's going to be specific to different angels and things. And then the one company, you know, because most incenses are like synthetic oils. You know, it's okay, but
No, I'll
but
go
there's
look and
one,
find what you've
yeah,
put on. And
but there's
the next,
one company, there's one company that we actually even are carrying it for the sake of the students. And if you want to go there, you can. But the company's name is, it's a Japanese incense called Shoyeido, like Shoyeido. They use genuine, like, you know, when they make aloes incense, they use genuine, like high grade aloes. And so, you know, they range in price, but some of the higher end stuff's pretty pricey. But they make some decent, like just normal, like rose and sandalwood and things like that. But we even bought a bunch of that from them and posted it for you guys. And so it's the same price as what they sell it for. In fact, I think we're even a little bit cheaper.
I don't have it on the site yet.
Okay. Oh, apparently we're in the process of posting it.
okay.
Yeah.
And the next question is, do you have a good, you know, I've taken all the angel classes, but
Uh-huh.
to be honest, I'm low level as far as knowledge about
Mhm.
angels. Do you have a source that you would recommend for studying?
Yeah. The information is really sporadic and not very good. And so, yeah, what we're trying to think of, like how to address that issue without making it too, I mean, because the thing that happens with a lot of the books is the lower practices basically treat angels a lot like bellhops, you know, like a cosmic bellhop of sorts. And it's actually doesn't allow for the process to happen. And so, yeah, the way I was
You
taught,
recognize this as an issue, you that
yeah,
to learn.
we're trying to, like, part of how I'm going to try to address it this year is we're going to start going and doing an angel at a time and talking about the angel and doing a practice about the angel.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And, yeah, and like almost, and it's not even going to be a whole weekend. It's just going to be a one-day thing. And so that way it's not too overwhelming from the weekend. We can talk about it. We can do practice that's very specific to that angel. And you can have experience, but we can also kind of talk about the theory of that angel and not treat it like the bellhop, you know, approach. And
Oh, I
so,
love
like,
that.
yeah, some of the writings hint at things, but they don't really go into detail. And so, like, if you don't have like this other like weird foundation and some other things, you almost don't even get what they're referencing. And so part of the issue is like bringing the terminology into like because it's usually very old writings, and the terminology almost to this time almost doesn't make sense because the terminology is like outdated is not the right word. It's just we have different references. And so what we're going to try to do is bring in the old terminology and references, but make it more modern for people of this time to be able to process it and understand it without having to study all these weird forms of these different practices to be able to go through and process it, you know, because they talk about it in ways that are very veiled. And if you don't have a reference for some of this information, then you just like it, you kind of don't get it. But I don't think that's also very fair. Like, you know, it's like, why can't you just say it in different ways or something? And so, you know, I think it was more about the time than it is about the practice. And so these days, I think we can say it in ways where we get the point across and we can guide in an experience, and it can be more something that you get rather than just the accumulation of some facts. Yeah. So
Thank you very much.
I think the first one we're going to do is Michael, and then the next one we're going to do is Metatron. And then we're gonna, I think the one after that is Raphael. We're gonna start doing some angels pretty often.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. And just like a 1 day thing, so it's not like a whole weekend. You know, you can just do a 1 day thing and be good with it.
Do you want to keep going?
Yeah, maybe we'll do one more.
Just kind of following up really quick, if we could just finish this part. Someone asked, when you're doing it, would you do the purba before or after you meditate as well?
Boy, you could say either or both. Sometimes doing the purba before helps you to have a deeper meditation. Doing it after helps you to further displace the lower vibrational energies that are being flushed out from the meditation. So you could do either one, or you could do both, actually. You know, like whenever even when I travel and do everything, I might not always use it, but I always have a purba with me, always.
And then would you use certain incense?
Yeah, like if you're not sure, sandalwood and aloes is always good. Hyssop and mugwort can be good. I think we are going to have, I don't know how much we have out, but I think I've made like 8 or 9 different incenses. And part of what we're going to start doing is when we talk about different angels, like and even in some of the classes now, I'm putting like at the back end of it, I'm putting maintenance, and like this is the kind of some options for salt baths. These are the options for, you know, potential sprays that you can make. This is the option for incenses you could burn. These are, you know, parts of, you know, like how we were talking about, like using spikenard on the feet, you know, it might be something like that. And so we'll keep talking about different ways that you can use the oils that you have for doing daily maintenance as you're going through and doing deeper work from each of the classes, but especially the angels.
What do you do when people around you feel the angel work effect and react with anger and upset for at least a little bit of the time?
Komio. You try using Komio. You know, it's like what Barbara was saying in the very beginning. Some of that is tied to their solar plexus, what's in their solar plexus. And you have to take into account, it's not always, the things in somebody's solar plexus is not always from them. It can be from other people, and it can be from the environment or things being projected at them. And so even if they get upset, could be the state of their emotional body, it could be other people that they're around, but Komio works really super good for calming down the tendency for wrath, especially when your energy body is getting more and more expansive and there's more light flowing through the form. Komio becomes something that you can use on a regular basis.
And someone just shared, I always feel more connected to the best version of myself when I work with the angels.
Yeah, no joke, huh? No joke. Yeah, I would agree with that. So, okay, you guys, we're going to do more Q&A with the angels. I think we've been doing enough work with the angels to where, you know, you guys have experiences to draw upon, and when you have the experiences, you have questions that are more than just like what you would read in books and stuff. And so we're going to be doing more practices with angels, and we're going to be doing more talking about the angels more in depth, and doing kind of like experience / meditations with them, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, love you guys. Thanks for tonight. This was a really great night.